Hello, guys. Welcome to my show. My guest today is a very interesting person. She lives in Sydney, Australia, and her name is Karen Hull. She is a registered nurse, and she is also an artist, and now she's taking on a new profession. She's a crystal Reiki master. And I think it's a very interesting and powerful combination to hold all those three very different professions in one person. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Well, I'm so excited you're here.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to be here, and thank you for the invite. I love your studio. It looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's new. All right, let's dive in then. Let's talk about your creative path. You've been working as a registered nurse for 25 years.
Yes.
Then you became a real estate artist. And now you're a crystal Reiki master.
Yes. Yes.
All these jobs relate to personal healing. And I wonder what drove you to pursue these three very different careers.
Well, actually, my first job when I left school, I worked in the bank where I met my husband. And I worked in the bank for about 2 years. But I knew it was a great place to meet my husband, but it wasn't fulfilling for me. And at that point, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. But I knew I wanted to do something fulfilling. And back then you could do nursing training in the hospitals. You didn't have to go to university. And so you could get a qualification while you worked. And so, I always loved nurturing people and helping people. So I was drawn to nursing and, I loved nursing. For 25 years, I loved nursing. Most of my nursing career, I worked in medical centres, and I did feel towards the end, I was starting to feel like there was, medicine in the medical centres. It felt like it was becoming more about money and not so much about the patients. And so I was starting to become disillusioned, and my journey into art, because I am quite spiritual, and I definitely feel we're guided as to what we're meant to do. So while still nursing, we went on a family holiday to Tasmania. And I know some people know this story, but I wasn't, for 20 years, I really didn't do a lot of art. I loved doing art as a kid. But then, like everybody else, you kind of get busy with a career and raising a family, and you just don't have time. And so we took our family on a holiday to Tasmania, and we were sitting on a pebbled beach in Tasmania, and I was looking out to the horizon, and then this sort of overwhelming sensation came over me that I need to draw. And I picked up a pebble and a sharp rock, and I was just etching into the pebble. And then after that, we spent the rest of the holiday, and I dragged Steve and the kids to every art shop and every gallery, and just absorbing it all and getting ideas, and came home and still nursing, but spent every spare minute I could. At that point, more painting. I was doing miniature watercolors because I'd seen some in a gallery in Tasmania and was drawn to that. But as a kid, my favourite present for birthday or Christmas was always to get a box of coloured pencils. From there, I started to get commission work, and things were picking up. And that's when I was starting to get a little bit disillusioned with feeling like nursing was more about money and not so much about the patients. We had to kind of churn them through, get them in and out. And I was like, but I want to care for these people and talk to them, So I was coming home from work in tears. And then my amazingly supportive husband said to me, look, why don't you just give the nursing a break for a while and focus on your art? You're starting to get commissions. And it was really hard to sort of give up an income and then, do art. But I did it and never looked back. Things started to pick up with the art, and I got busier and busier, and then ultimately, because in Australia, if you don't keep up your working hours and your education, then you're taken off the register for nursing. So ultimately, they sort of said to me, we're really sorry, we have to take you off the register. So at that point, there was kind of no going back. I couldn't be a registered nurse anymore. And so I just threw myself into art, which, you know, I just loved anyway. The holiday to Tasmania was in 2006. And I can't remember exactly, but I probably left nursing around 2009, 2010, and was a full-time artist, you know, in the years up until now. But then in the last year or two, whilst I still love doing art, I was starting to feel like I needed something more. You know, I've written, I don't know, 50 or 60 tutorials. I'd sort of, you know, I've never been an ambitious person anyway. And I felt like I'd sort of accomplished more with the art than I'd even imagined. And I didn't really have any idea where else I wanted to go with it. So I was starting to get a bit, you know, just looking for something more. And so, you know, this will sound a bit crazy, but, you know, I've meditated for quite a few years now. I actually started meditating before doing the tour of the US workshop tour, because I was so anxious about doing workshops. I'd never run a workshop. I'd never been to a workshop. I didn't even know if I could do it. I had a bit of a phobia about speaking in public. And so the thought just terrified me. So I turned to meditating. So that was about 5 or 6 years ago. And so early last year, there was a guided meditation that takes you to your future self and shows you, you know, what you could be doing or will be doing. And at the time, I was quite skeptical. You know, I thought, how's that going to work? You know, but anyway, I did the meditation, and at first, you know, I'm sitting there all zen, nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden I got a vision of my older self, grey hair, and I was leaning over people. And then the word Reiki flashed so clearly in my head. And I'm not really one for, I struggle to visualize, you know, I don't get visions, and I had no idea what Reiki was. So this word is flashing in my head and I'm thinking, what on earth is Reiki? So I finished the meditation, jumped on the computer, looked up what Reiki was about, then did a couple of online courses for Reiki, was led to crystals, and then from there, so within Australia, Reiki Australia organisation, they don't recognise online courses for Reiki. They only recognise it if you've done it in person with a master. So I've now done level 1 and 2 in Reiki with a master, and I'm booked in next month to do my master's in Reiki. So, you know, I still do art, but it's shifted now more to being a hobby rather than a career. And I'm still passionate about art. It's just that I knew I needed something more in my life than just drawing all the time, you know? So that's the long version.
No, it's very good. It's very good to know. We are going to talk about all of these things. So I think we are going to start with your art, and then we can go from there and talk about Reiki. You can explain everything about it, because I don't know much besides the fact that it comes from Japan, and you know, it's an energy field. But anyways, let's go. Let's discuss your art first. I'm assuming you're a self-taught artist. Are you?
Yes.
Because of your story. Well, that's amazing, because how could you be so good without any formal education?
Well, I whilst my mum doesn't accept it, I credit my mum to a lot of that, because I think she's an amazing artist, but she is very humble and she denies that. And I, as a little kid, I would we'd go on holidays and she would be drawing. She'd have the big old Walter Foster books. Do you remember the old Walter Foster books?
Okay.
And she would have those, and we would sit together on the lounge and draw together, just draw faces or dogs, cats, whatever. And they were such happy memories for me. But I think I gained an understanding of shading and tone from Mum. Mum she prefers graphite. She's not really into color. And the interesting thing is that, my brothers and 3 of my 4 kids are all colorblind. So Mum and I are the carriers. We're carriers for that gene. I feel for my boys because they don't see color in the same way as what we do. And it's hard for me to imagine, because color is, I love color. I just love color. So whilst Mum was drawn to doing graphite, I was always drawn to doing color. And, I feel like sometimes we're just given gifts and you don't know why. And for me, color was always intuitive. So I think shading and the tone I learned from Mum. I don't consider myself a great drawer as such, because I don't, if I did a freehand portrait, it would probably be pretty dreadful. I'm pretty sure the proportions would be all out. And so I've always been fairly, upfront and shameless about the fact that, yep, I trace a basic outline from a photo just to get everything in place. Because sitting there and fretting over proportions and everything doesn't appeal to me. And I know that, a lot of purists will say, well, that's kind of cheating, or, you're not a real artist. But I think, well, that's fine. But I just believe we're each given different gifts. And I know my gift wasn't freehand drawing, whereas other people can sit there and, sketch away and do an amazing likeness. But I think, I was intuitive with color and, shading and toning. And so I don't know if I got off track there, but anyway, yeah, I give it to my mum.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're talking about tracing the images, and it makes me think of my education. I went, like, after getting my master's degree, I went to New York and I studied classical painting, and that involved a lot of sketching from figure and stuff. What I realized is that it does matter, but I think every artist is free to use the tools. It just doesn't matter I think if you can achieve the result, it doesn't matter how you do it, as long as it's beautiful.
I think, well, obviously it's quite a contentious issue. There's a lot of people who, have strong feelings one way or the other. But, for me, art should be enjoyable, And,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think, you know what? I would love to be able to, draw amazingly freehand. And I think journals are a great tool. And I think if I had any kind of regrets, it would be, I wish I'd started an art journal from a young age and just, taken it to cafes or the beach or a picnic or whatever and just sat there and sketched. And I think, if you did that regularly, you'd be better. But I'm kind of an impatient person and, I haven't put in the time. I'm sure if I sat down and sketched from life all the time, I'd get better. But I just want to jump in and do the color and the shading.
I understand. Yeah. I think, doing any kind of art, doing it well is a lot of struggle. And I think we need to minimize that, the difficulties and the struggle. So who cares how it's done?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. I agree.
Could you describe your art to people who have never seen it before? Like, what is it exactly? I mean, I know what it is, but it's just...
I have always strived for photorealism. And probably a lot of my artwork is photorealistic. If I was to say what I really, really want to create, I would rather be more creative and imaginative and more intuitive with my art. But it's sort of, you know, when it comes to say your art, for example, you know, and I followed your art for years, and I feel like it tells a story, and it often has symbolism and very deep meaning in it, you know. And I think that's the kind of art I would have liked to have created, something that really speaks to people. But whether it's that I don't have the imagination, or I don't have the story to tell, or maybe my life purpose was really more to show people how to do photorealistic art. And I kind of feel that's what it was all about, you know. Photorealistic art is kind of easy for me, and it's maybe because it's easy for me, I wish I could do other kind of art. But I know there's a lot of artists out there who struggle to do photorealistic art, and they want to know how to do it. So a lot of the art I have done has been about, you know, how can I show people, you know, how they can achieve this. So whether it's using different surfaces or different techniques, the purpose to my art has mostly been helping others with their art. It's like, you know, if you've got straight hair, you want curly hair. If you've got curly hair, you want straight hair. It's a little bit the same with art sometimes. You know, I'll see illustrative pieces, creative pieces, imaginative pieces, and I think, I wish I could do that. But give me a photo, give me some pencils, and usually I can, you know, reproduce it. I do try, as I got more, as my art developed, I really tried to steer away from exactly replicating a photo and either in kind of improving the photo or putting some of myself into it, still trying to achieve a photorealistic look, but not sort of so much so you've got a photo and an artwork and they look exactly the same. So I think that's something that's really important for artists to try to do, because otherwise, and there have been, well, you hear those comments anyway, or you're just a photocopier. And there have been times where I've actually felt that way. So, you know, I think it's really important, you know, if for artists out there who want to do photorealistic art, you know, develop your techniques so that you get to a level of photorealism that you're happy with, but then try and take it to the next level where you are using a photo, or better still, a combination of photos, and then adapting it to make it your own, to make it, you know, better or different to the photo. So I think that's sort of been my journey as an artist as well, is to think, okay, you know, here's a photo, but how can I make it my own? How can I make it better?
Actually, you answered my question, because I wanted to ask you what you wanted to achieve with your art, but you already answered.
Yeah.
How did you push yourself to become a better artist?
Probably by trying different mediums, different surfaces, combinations. You know, I did look at other artists more so in my early journey, but not so much to compare my art to their art, because I think that's, you know, that can do you in, you know, you think, oh, I'm not as good as them, but more, you know, I'd sort of think, I'd be inspired by other artists and think, wow, you know, I wonder if I could do that. So I'd sort of take the styles or the techniques of other artists, but then I try and make it my own and adapt it. And along the way, I have probably thrown away more pieces than I've completed.
Yeah.
You know, and I still look at my portfolio, and there's very few pieces that I'm really proud of. And I think that's not a bad thing, because if you look at your whole portfolio and you go, yep, I've nailed it, that's pretty amazing, then you're not striving to be better, and you're not improving. And most artists you speak to feel some level of dissatisfaction with, you know, what they've created, and I think that's good, because then you're always striving to be better. So I do get bored very easily. So, you know, I know, so galleries like to see a theme in your art. They like to see continuity. And that's something I struggle with, because I would rather try new things all the time than do a whole series of things that are the same, which can be a disadvantage for artists who want to get known. I think you know, if you want to become a really well-known artist and in demand with galleries and prints and that, you have to have a certain style that's different and unique and has continuity. And that's something that I've never been able to achieve either. I just am always looking, new art materials come online, great, let's order it, let's try it, let's see what we can do. You know, and then let's mix it up a bit. And if somebody says to me, you know, you can't do that with this medium, you can't do that with, you know, you're not meant to do it this way or that way, then I will bust a boiler to try and do it that way, because, you know, I don't know, maybe there's a rebel in me, but I just think it's so fun to try something different and to push the boundaries of mediums, especially colored pencils, you know, to see what can be achieved.
Yeah, the first time I saw your work, I was stunned, like,
really?
Yeah, the realistic effect and light and dark. I mean, I really loved it. And I couldn't believe you were self-taught. So it's amazing. I'm kind of disappointed you're not doing it anymore to the same capacity.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I've had that comment from a lot of people, but I think you can reach a point where you think, you know, what else can I do?
No, I think you need to listen to yourself. So if it's not working, you know, there must be something else.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it all the time. If, you know, sometimes I want to quit and what else could I do? And then I just go back to art.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's very simple. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like a loop.
It has been hard, because in some ways I feel like, you know, people are disappointed or maybe feel let down because I haven't done much art in the last year, but
I think you might come back to it sometime in the future when you get all your energy flowing.
Yes, I think so too. I mean, I think maybe what I do in the future will be different. I don't know that I would produce tutorials. There's so many artists out there now who are creating tutorials, and them, you know, they're better than the ones I do. And you know, when I first started creating tutorials, there weren't many artists out there they're doing it, so there was a real demand. But now I think there's so many artists doing beautiful tutorials, so that people don't need my tutorials.
They do, but I think after your Reiki
establishes,
then well, I'm thinking that your art would be personal after that.
Yes, that actually is probably what I'd like to do. Perhaps express, I don't know, some of my spirituality through the art.
And I think you'll get there.
Yes. So maybe shift more, you know, to personal pieces like you do, which would be, it would be lovely to do. Yeah.
Well, okay, my next question.
Sure.
If you advise someone to begin doing art, what would be the reason to do so? Because it's a very difficult profession. Obviously, it takes a lot of time to learn the techniques, and then everything about being an artist is uncertainty.
So, are you referring to them wanting to do a career in art, or just to do art?
Just to do art. Like, what would be the reason to do art? Like, if you see someone who asks for your opinion, what would you advise?
And they're new to art.
Yeah.
I would say explore, look at other artists and learn from other artists to find out what appeals to you, what mediums appeal to you, what style appeals to you, and see if you can research, what techniques and mediums those artists use, and then make it your own. Dabble with different mediums, with different surfaces. And whilst I say look at other artists, as you're doing your pieces, don't compare yourself to other artists, because even when with my tutorials or with my workshops, and everybody's working from the same reference photo and the same tutorial, and every single piece looks quite different. Like and so it's amazing to me how even. And they all might look photorealistic, but there's a little bit of that person in each artwork. And I think, don't try to replicate what that person's doing, because you've got a bit of yourself in there and you want that to come through in your art. So it's a common question in the colored pencil forums. What's the best surface to work with? What's the best brand of colored pencils to work with? And there's no simple answer to that, because, some artists like working with toothy papers. I prefer a more smoother surface. Some people try drafting film and they can't stand it. And the same with pencils. There are artists who swear by Prismacolors and others who are not fan of Prismacolors. So there's no single answer for everything. So my advice is, within your budget, if you're thinking, what brand of colored pencils is the best, go and get a couple of each of them, just a couple of pencils from each of the main brands. Try and get samples of different surfaces, and then play. And don't, expect yourself to create masterpieces from the start, because none of us do. And, when we were on holidays in Tasmania, when I had this epiphany, and, I look back at the artworks that I did on that holiday, and my family have looked at them and just laughed, because they're so bad, they're really dreadful. And I think that's the thing. And you often see it in the art forums where people will say, this is an artwork I did 5 years ago, and this is an artwork I'm doing now. And it's amazing to see the development. So, it does take practice, and it does take time, and you've got to put the work in, and not be afraid to fail, and don't give up if you think, oh, I'm not good enough, or my artwork isn't as good as that person's there. Over the years, I have copped a bit of criticism, because within the art forums, I tend to be encouraging or complimentary of people's artworks, and it's been said to me, oh, you just give kind comments to people even when their artwork is terrible. But I don't look at it that way, because I don't look at any artwork and think, oh, that's terrible. And I've had artists come to me and say, I nearly gave up on my art, except that you gave me an encouraging word, and then that motivated me to keep going, and I'm so glad I did. And that is probably the best compliment that anybody can give me, because I think art can be such a comfort to people. Last year, I wonder how many people found that art got them through COVID, because they couldn't see their loved ones, or, they couldn't do the things that they normally love to do, but most of us could still do art, and I think art isn't just about creating a masterpiece or doing something amazing. It's about expressing yourself. It can be a meditative process. It can give us so much joy and satisfaction. It can also give us a lot of frustration, but you've got to work through that, and I think, look, probably the best piece of advice I could give anybody in art, and it's one that it took me a long time to learn myself, is enjoy the process.
Mm-hmm.
Don't keep looking at the finish line. Don't rush it and always be anxious to finish a piece, because, and I was like that, you know, if a piece took me longer than 6 to 8 hours, I was so bored with it and, you know, frustrated and impatient. And then over time I realized that you know, that was taking away my enjoyment for art. Now I can sit at a piece for weeks and just go back to it and feel peace and just work on an area and just get that area right and sit back and look at it, and it doesn't matter if it's not finished for weeks, you know.
Colored pencil is such a tedious medium. It takes forever to finish anything. So I'm surprised you're saying like you were tired of it in 8 hours. I mean, I wouldn't be accomplishing much drawing for 8 hours. And
well, I started off as a miniature artist, so I was doing very
okay.
You know, one of the pieces that actually has been probably my most popular piece, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, the Grandpa Elliot piece. That and that was done from a photo that my brother and sister-in-law took on their honeymoon in New Orleans. And I did that on a Saturday afternoon. Like I did that in about 6 to 8 hours. And it was quite surprising to me that a piece that was relatively easy, didn't cause me any angst, didn't take me, you know, weeks to do, ended up being one of my most popular pieces. But I sometimes accredit that more to the fact of, you know, who it was. And he's such a... Are you familiar with Grandpa Elliot?
I remember the drawing, but I don't know the story behind it.
So he's a street musician in New Orleans who's blind.
Oh,
he's
okay.
Completely blind, and plays the harmonica. And you know, I think if you watch YouTube videos of him, and you know, there's just this beautiful essence that comes from him. And I think it was a bit of him that came through in the artwork. And so I give credit to him that it was quite a popular artwork. But, you know, so that's the thing. You can create an artwork relatively quickly and it can be, you know, appreciated by the masses. And then you can spend weeks or months on a piece and nobody gives it the time of day. It's one of those unpredictable things that you know, none of us know which of our artworks are going to be successful and which one's not, you know.
So what's your favorite piece? Do you have several?
No, I have very few favorite pieces. I don't, as soon as I've finished a piece, it gets put away and I put it out of my thought and move on to the next one. Like I'm always really excited to move on to the next piece. And I don't tend to have any, you know, sentimentality about pieces that I've completed in the past. So, you know, so I've heard some artists say that they really, they felt sad to let go of a piece, whereas I've never felt that way. It's like, great, go, you know. if this piece brings somebody joy, I'm happy. I could probably say, because I don't know how many artworks I've done over the years, but there's probably only half a dozen where I go, oh, I really like that one. I mean, Grandpa Elliot is probably one of them because it was the first piece to be accepted into the CPSA exhibition. And because that piece brought me, I suppose, more acknowledgement, or people were more aware of my art. So I guess it's pieces that have been milestones in my art that maybe I look back on. There's a little piece I did, and I have it hanging. I could go and get it and show you if you want. Because it was a little 2x3 inch piece of a squirrel or chipmunk. I get them mixed up, but you know, with a butterfly on its nose. Only because the original was 2x3 inches, and then my brother blew it up for me.
Wow.
So that piece piece I had on the Illustrators Australia website, and then the publishers Hatchet spotted it on that Illustrators Australia website, and then asked me to do a couple of children's books. So, that piece, it's not my best piece, but it has sentimental value for me because of what it led to. So I think it's more, my favorite pieces are those that led to something, or mean something to me because of what happened with them.
Now I'm thinking you have a class on Craftsy,
yes,
teaching colored pencil. How did that come about?
So Cynthia Knox, I hope she won't mind me mentioning her. And, we've been dear friends for a long time. And she had done a couple of classes on Craftsy, and Craftsy had approached her and said, can you recommend anybody? And she put my name forth. And so then Craftsy contacted me. So I'm forever grateful to Cynthia because it was the most incredible experience. I don't know that they now bring international artists across to America to do that, because it must have been such an expensive process for them. And so they flew my husband Steve and I into Denver, and we did the filming over 3 days, and it was the most amazing experience. So most of the, I suppose, successes that I've had have not been things that I've sought out, but rather things, people have contacted me and said, would you like to do this? And, the kind of person that I am, my first inclination is to say no, because I really, I'm a homebody, and I'm probably quite a bit of a hermit, a bit shy. So, to go, the thought of going and, filming a class for Craftsy was terrifying for me. But, I'm so glad I did it. It was an amazing experience. And hopefully the class helps people.
How did you deal with your fear, I guess?
Well, I made it very clear to Craftsy that I would be very reliant on the teleprompter, because I do have a tendency to blank quite easily.
Yeah,
so
me
that
too.
was my sorry?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So my biggest fear was that the camera's rolling, and because you have to draw and talk at the same time. And I'm so used to, I'm so used to being in my own little world, talking to nobody, just drawing. And I knew that I would just get lost with my train of thought or whatever, unless they had the teleprompter there. So they apparently now, when you do a Craftsy class, they don't want you to use the teleprompter as much, because obviously they want it to be more natural or whatever. But I think if that was the case, I probably wouldn't get through it, because the teleprompter and the staff there at Craftsy were just so supportive and amazing. So they got me through it. We have these fears sometimes, and we tell ourselves, I don't think I can do it. But then you just got to go with it and just face it. And then a lot of times we can do things that we don't even think, we're capable of. So somehow I got through it, and I'm glad I did it. And I think that's been with everything, oh, will you do a children's book? Oh, I don't know if I can do a children's book. Okay, I'll give it a go. Will you do some workshops in the US? I don't know if I can do that, but we got there. And then Lisa Ann Watkins, come and do some workshops in the UK. But that was a bit easier because I'd done the workshops in the US then. So Walter Foster, will you do a portrait book? Everything, if you'd said to me 15 years ago that these would be some of the things that I would end up doing, I would have said, I don't think so. That's I'm not capable of doing those things. So I think we're all probably capable of doing more than what we give ourselves credit for, as long as we don't let our fears stop us, which is so easy to do, isn't it?
Besides your obvious talent for drawing, I I actually find you very entrepreneurial, like you are able to communicate to people well, you have a following, you've done lots of tutorials. Where does that come from? Because a lot of artists just do art and they can't really put it out there.
Definitely, I think that was something I was born with. You know, my dad, who's no longer with us, was the most amazing person who could put his hand to absolutely anything and did so many different jobs throughout his lifetime. And every job he did, he excelled at. So, you know, I kind of grew up in that environment where I'm the eldest of 5 kids, and he made us all believe that we could do anything. Very organized. I mean, I got a medal in preschool for being the most organized 4-year-old. So it was like something that kind of was there from the start. And I think it just interests me, you know, with I've had my website now since 2006, so coming up 15 years. And I think a lot of the things that I sort of started and tried was at a time where a lot of people, especially my age, were a bit fearful, you know, of technology, the internet. And so when things came along, I would just learn it and try and do it. And that's something that I don't feel fearful about. I guess that's part of it. I hear people and they sort of a bit fearful of the entrepreneurial side of it, whereas that's never scared me. I think you just got to get in and just do it. And it does take time too. You've got to put the work in, I think. You know, that's a bit of a struggle for a lot of artists because they just want to create art, which is great. But if you want to make a business out of it, you have to put the time in from the business side of things too. And so, you know, that I've cut back now, but, you know, I used to spend maybe 4 to 5 hours a day on the computer. You know, I get up at, you know, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning and do emails and comment on people's art and do all that. And then, you know, throughout the day and then again at night. And I still, you know, get up every day and there'll be questions from customers, or in my groups I'll comment or whatever. I think it's, if you want a following, you can't just say to people, come and follow me, because you've got to be giving back. You've got to be giving to people. And then, you know, I think that's, and I've said that over the years, that I think people have said to me, but what's the key to your success? And as I said to you, I was never really that ambitious. And the successes that have come my way weren't things that I sought out. My passion has always been about helping people. And it still is. So the opportunities that have come my way have come because I was passionate about helping others. So I kind of think, you know, if you want to be successful as an entrepreneur, you do have to be prepared to give a lot as well. Give your time, put the effort in, and give to other people, you know.
Yeah, I find that I spend about 50% of my time doing other things, but yeah.
Like online and that, is that what you mean?
Yeah, all business related things that need to be done. Yeah,
need to be done.
Yeah.
But it pays dividends too, you know. I think it's very hard to be a very successful artist and bring in a lot of income if you just, you know, unless you win some major exhibition, or, you know, if you just want to create art, and you have to have your fingers in so many pies to be successful, you know. I've lost track of all the different sites that I'm on and the different, I suppose, different sources of income, you know. So so I'll get royalties from the children's books, royalties from Crafty. You've got to have a variety of things, I think.
Multiple income streams. Yeah.
I think so. I
Yeah.
definitely think so. And, maybe it'll be teaching, or, some people make a very successful career from commissions, but that's a hard road. I think that's a hard road because, clients can be quite picky, and they can send you terrible references and expect you to create amazing artworks from those references. But, some people do have very successful careers doing commission work.
Let's talk about Reiki.
Yep.
Because this is a very interesting topic. Explain what it means and how you've become involved with Reiki.
We all have Reiki energy. We all have it in us, but it doesn't become activated until we're attuned by another Reiki master. I think it's a difficult concept for people to understand, but a common analogy is, if you think of radio waves and tuning into, different channels on the radio, then Reiki is a little bit the same. And so when I call in the Reiki energy, I can actually, feel it moving through me. I can feel it moving through my hands. And most of what I do is distance Reiki, which is a very hard concept for people to get their head around. They can't understand how they could be miles away. And I usually use a teddy bear as a surrogate. And when I hold my hands over the various areas of the bear's body, but I have set the intention that I'm working on this person, I usually have a photo of them there, and maybe what's their area that they would like worked on. Is it physical pain, or is it emotional blockages? And then I think about that, and I just ask for the energy to go where it's needed most in the body. That's how Reiki works. We can set the intention that somebody might say, oh, I've got back pain. So you set the intention that the Reiki energy will help their back pain. But a lot of pain and a lot of emotional, a lot of stuff that we deal with, even illnesses,
comes from emotional
blockages that can go right back to our childhood, and we're not even aware that we're carrying those. So when I'm doing Reiki on someone, whether in person or whether as a surrogate, you can actually feel those blockages. And so usually I'll start off by doing a scan of the different chakras, and I don't know do you know what chakras are?
I do, but you can explain it to people.
So the chakras are the energy centers of the body, and we have 7 main chakras, which is our crown chakra, our third eye chakra, throat chakra, our heart chakra. Then just below our chest is our solar plexus. Around our tummy is our sacral, and then at the base of our spine is our root chakra. They're our main energy centers. And for me, as a Reiki practitioner, if I am scanning somebody, if somebody's chakras are in balance, it feels like a wheel of energy, both around my hand and also in that part of my body. Even though I'm working on somebody else, I can feel what's going on in their body almost in my body. And it's very hard to explain. And so the goal, initially, I'll scan all the chakras just to see which ones are imbalanced, which ones are blocked. And then I work with my hands to clear and balance the chakras. That helps the Reiki energy to work better. And then, I call in the Reiki and channel the Reiki, and the Reiki goes where it's needed most in the body. The body utilizes the Reiki energy and helps to clear those blockages. So, if we have emotional trauma, it's unlikely that one Reiki session is going to clear away all the blockages caused by years and years of emotional trauma. So it usually takes multiple Reiki sessions to do that. But, the other thing I've found, the more I've done Reiki, because I've never never been psychic, never been intuitive in that way. But what I found with Reiki is that it tends to open up all those kind of psychic gifts, and because we're all psychic, most people say, oh, I'm not psychic, and I was definitely one of those people, I'm not psychic, but actually we all are. We just close off to those gifts. We're so caught up in sort of the reality of day-to-day living and the material world. But when you get in touch with Reiki energy is actually, it's the universal life force energy, which is everybody's loving energy. And you can actually, when you channel Reiki energy, it's like you have love flowing through you. And it's a beautiful feeling. So as I lay my hands on a certain area of the body, I can feel that flow. And then when it's time to move on to another position in the body, the flow stops, and that tells me, okay, it's time to move on. And sometimes I'm almost sad when the Reiki finishes, because it's such a lovely feeling. It's like when you get feel good endorphins, that's what the Reiki energy feels like. And it's amazing because it's helped people. I've had several people who contacted me and they had sciatica, and I did distance Reiki healing for them, and with hours their sciatica was gone. My mum had 6 weeks of pain. She'd been on Schedule 8 drugs, so she was on I think she was on morphine or something for her back pain, and then within a couple of hours of doing the Reiki session, her back pain was gone, her sciatica was gone. So it depends what's causing the pain, but it's not something I talk about a lot, because a lot of people either are skeptical or don't understand. So if people are open and they want to know about it, I love to talk about it because it's such a beautiful thing.
So what are the principles of Reiki?
The 5 principles?
Yeah, you can talk about the 5 principles. Yeah.
Okay, so that's because, so I don't know if you want to know the history of Reiki. It was actually a Dr. Mikao Yusui was a Japanese Buddhist monk back in the early 1900s, I think around 1910. So he did a 21-day meditation and was sent the Reiki symbols and the guidance to channel Reiki. And he developed the 5 principles of Reiki, which are: just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will not anger. Just for today, I will be grateful. Just for today, I will work diligently. And just for today, I will be kind to all living things. And the reason he says just for today is because we all stuff up every day. So, you think, okay, just for today, I will not worry, be angry. Every morning I wake up and I try to remember to say those principles to myself. And most days I fail at least one, particularly the worry one. To get through the whole day and not worry is really hard,
Yeah.
It's what it's asking us to do is just to trust that we are where we're meant to be, and that everything is unfolding as it's meant to happen. And the things that we worry about, we don't need to worry about, if we trust. So that's why they say just for today, try and do it for today. And then if you fail, then wake up tomorrow. Just for today, I will not worry. I will not be angry. I will be grateful. I'll work diligently, and I'll be kind to all living things, So they're beautiful principles to try and live by. Hard, but, beautiful to live by.
Could you explain more of a history, like the time frame, like how did it develop?
Yeah, so Dr. Mikao Yusui did this 21-day meditation, and he was given the symbols, and he felt the Reiki energy. He was up on a mountain. On his way down the mountain, he actually stubbed his toe and it was bleeding. And so he went down, put his hand down to the toe, and the pain immediately went away and the bleeding stopped. And then, so he hadn't eaten for 21 days. I think he must have drunk water. And he went down to a house down the bottom of the mountain, and he was able to eat a full meal without being sick, which most people, if they're fasted for 21 days, wouldn't be able to do. And so from there, he started to, he found that he was able to heal people with the Reiki energy. Mm-hmm. And so then he started to teach other people, you know, how to channel the Reiki. And over the course of his life, he taught, I think, 11 Reiki masters. And one of his masters opened a Reiki school in Japan. And from there, a Japanese Hawaiian lady, she was very ill and went from Hawaii over to Japan and happened to go to this Reiki school. Mm-hmm. and found that over the next couple of months, all her issues and illnesses went away. And so she asked to be taught to be a Reiki master. And then she took it back to America. And so right into the 80s, she taught hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, what we sort of know as Western Reiki. The Reiki energy has been around for centuries, and, you know, I believe that what Jesus channeled was Reiki, that Buddha channeled Reiki. It just wasn't called Reiki. But Reiki in the form as we know it has been around for only about 100 years. Okay. And it is gaining in popularity. It's spreading very quickly. Mm-hmm. But you still, you know, even amongst my kids, you know, my oldest son is very much, you know, show me the scientific evidence. Mm-hmm. You know, so there's still a lot of people who are either skeptical or even fearful, because, you know, it's something, if you can't see it then and you can't understand it, then people can be a bit fearful of that. But I feel like my mission is to help people understand that it's actually beautiful, and that it can help people. It can heal people and it can help people. And yeah, I really want to help spread the word about Reiki.
Can you talk about crystals, like how you use them, why you use them, like their meaning, all of that?
Okay. So after I, you know, first kind of came across Reiki, I was fairly quickly drawn to crystals. And my husband, God bless him, said one weekend, let's go to a crystal shop and buy you some crystals. And so I picked up some crystals that I was drawn to and started to do research about crystals. And they actually have similar DNA to people, believe it or not. And so what I found was, if I hold a crystal in my hand, each crystal gives off a different energy. Some energies would resonate with me and some not, but the crystals that might resonate with me might be different for other people. And, you know, it was amazing. As I started my collection of crystals, one crystal I have is rainforest rhyonite. So I would hold that crystal in my hand and close my eyes, and I would be in almost a trance-like state, be transported to a rainforest and be taken on a journey through a rainforest. And with most of the crystals, if I hold them, the energy that I get lasts about 10 minutes and then it starts to fade away. But in Reiki healing, I use the crystals to focus energy for a particular area of the body or a particular need. I then spent about 3 or 4 months last year researching all the crystals that I had, which is about 160, finding out what their properties are, what parts of the body they can heal or help to heal, you know, what emotions they can work on, you know, what zodiac signs are they affiliated with, or earth elements. And I created these crystal cards, which I sell on Etsy. And I'm looking either side because my crystals are all either side of me. So I've got 2, 4, 6, I've got 12 boxes that are all set up like this with all the different crystals in them. When I'm doing distance Reiki, I actually, as I place my hands, I'm laying my hands on top of the crystal on top of that part of the body. And that helps the Reiki energy to be focused for a particular area or, I suppose, intention or need.
So is it necessary to have a crystal, or you can do energy healing without it?
It's not necessary. You know, we're all drawn to different things. So some people will combine different modalities with Reiki. It might be aromatherapy, it might be sound therapy, flower therapy. You know, there's so many different things you can do. I was drawn to crystals. I mean, I think they're beautiful. And it was amazing to me how they all carry different energies. You know, some are protective. So some you could carry with you, you know, for protection. Rose quartz is commonly known because of its, you know, it helps you connect with unconditional love. You know, if you're feeling anxious, sitting there and meditating with a particular crystal can help you to relieve your anxiety. So you know, they can be used for so many different purposes. There's certain crystals that you can place around your plants and they will help your plants to grow.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we're surrounded by gamma rays. You know, all the devices that we use are giving off all these gamma rays, and the crystals, I have crystals placed, you know, near the computer, near anything that gives off this radiation, to help absorb and draw that radiation away from us, because it's not great for our energy field to have to be surrounded by so much of this radiation. I mean, the crystals need to be cleared regularly. If I use them in Reiki, then I always, afterwards, I wash them in running water, then place them in the sun for at least an hour, and then I smudge them with sage and then do Reiki. So there's quite a process for me to clear the crystals between every time they're used. But it is important to clear your crystals because they can hold negative energy as well as positive energy. So you just want to make sure that anytime you're using crystals that they're cleansed and charged for whatever you want to use them for. One thing I should mention about the crystals and with the chakras, so our crown chakra is associated with the color sort of white or lilac. Our third eye chakra is associated with indigo. Throat is blue. Heart is either green or pink. Solar plexus is yellow, sacral orange, and root red. The knowledge of chakras has been around for like thousands of years.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure there is a reason. I think it's partly, you know, as you get higher up, because each chakra is associated with different organs and functions. So the root chakra is really about grounding, stability, security, our base needs. And then as you move higher up, our crown chakra is more associated with spirituality and, you know, soul needs. So, yeah, I'm not exactly sure about why the colors are, but what you find is that the crystals of particular colors seem to resonate with the chakras of the same color. So, you know, if you've got most of the green crystals will be associated with the heart chakra.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, the blue crystals associated with the throat chakra and so on. So when I am doing crystal Reiki, mostly, I mean, I've got the information there about what each crystal will do, but you'll tend to find that you're matching the colors of the crystals with the colors of the chakras. That's not always the case because some crystals are associated with a couple of different chakras, but in most cases that is the case.
Okay. How could you feel energy of a person, you know, doing the session online? Like, how is it possible?
I don't know. That's where the analogy of the radio waves comes in, I guess. You know, how do we turn on a radio or a TV station and pick up, you know, what we're picking up through the waves? You know, it's a similar kind of thing. I think a lot of the stuff to do with spirituality, we don't have the answers. We just kind of have to accept that it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with Reiki energy. I don't fully understand how it works, but I know from having done, multiple, I've lost track, maybe I've done, 70 or 80 distance Reiki sessions for people. What I find now also when I'm doing Reiki is I'll get insights.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sort of given guidance about things that they might be working through. And people have said to me, oh, you were spot on with what came through. I don't know how it works, but I know from having done it that what I'm feeling is real. And what the other thing that I feel is where there's a blockage, sometimes I'll go into the Reiki session, I'm very happy, very peaceful, no problems. And then all of a sudden I come across a blockage and I get overwhelmed with emotions and feel very tearful, and it's me releasing that person's emotions. It's not my emotions. And I mean, how does that happen? How do I even know? And so I'll go back to that person and say, I felt this or that. And I can't explain why I felt it. And they'll say, oh, yes, that's, that makes sense to me. Well, I don't know why that works, but I'm grateful that it does work. And I think it's such a beautiful thing.
Can you feel my energy now or no?
No, because to actually feel the energy, I have to go through a process.
Oh, okay.
So I usually, start with a prayer and call in the Reiki energy. And then I do all the Reiki symbols over the person's body, or in, when I'm doing it distance Reiki, over the bear. And then, I sweep the aura to clear blockages and scan. So it's, you have to be in a certain mindset. And I mean, I can call on the Reiki energy, but I feel like, I would need to be in the right place, have the surrogate set up, have a talk to you about, what your needs are, and set the intention. So yesterday I had a crook neck for a few days. And so I just, set the intention, called in the Reiki energy, and placed my hand on my crook neck for about 10 minutes until the energy stopped and my crook neck went away. So, you don't have to go through, mostly when I do Reiki, it takes an hour to an hour and a half. So, it's...
Wow, well, that's quite long.
It is quite long.
Yeah.
But, we're talking about healing people that...
Oh, yeah.
The blockages that have taken years to build up. So, that was probably a struggle for me when I first started doing Reiki, because, I'm an A-type personality, and to sit there for an hour to an hour and a half and not actually be doing something was a real struggle. But now I don't find it a struggle, because, you've got those lovely feel-good endorphins, and I'm also, focused on what am I trying to pick up with this person, what are their needs, where are their blockages, and you sort of focus on, the love energy. Now I find it a blessing. It's really beautiful.
What's the education like? How is it set up? Like, I have no idea. Is it like reading books or?
I did 2 online courses, and both were done with Udemy. I think one was about 3 hours of videos, and then, working your way through it. And then she, talked about the history and showed us how to do Reiki. And then she does an attunement, a distance attunement, which works the same way as what distance Reiki does. And then I did a different Udemy course on Reiki, which was much more technical focused. So there weren't the videos showing you how to do it, but there was a lot more information. And that one probably went for about 8 hours. I'd done a lot of research as well online. But then I wanted to take it further, and I wanted to join Reiki Australia. And I realized that most of these organizations want you to have done it in person. And I really, really strongly recommend, having done both online and in-person Reiki courses, I really recommend doing them in person, because whilst doing the online ones gave me the information, and so you're introduced to the history of Reiki, you're shown how to do Reiki, you're shown the symbols, the meaning behind the symbols, you know, the principles of Reiki, you know, all of that is covered. But when you go and do it in person and you feel the Reiki energy and you experience an attunement, which feels like such a sacred and beautiful ceremony when you have the attunement in person, I really do think it's better to do it in person. Doing it in person, there was a lot of discussion about, you know, what Reiki is, you know, what are my needs. You know, I have the one who attuned me in person is my Reiki master mentor, is a beautiful person. And she's like a friend to me. So it's really, you've got to get your head around everything, learn the process, learn the symbols. And then I think it mostly comes down to practice. You know, the more you do it, the more your third eye is opened up. So the more intuitive you can't become, the more you pick up. You know, over the last year, every time I do Reiki, I'm picking up more and more from the person that I'm doing Reiki on.
Wow.
Which is exciting. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
When Steve first took me to a crystal shop, and I just picked up a crystal pendulum just out of curiosity. I really didn't know anything about it, or, you know, what they could do. I've just got one here, so I can show you.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So I found that through the crystal pendulum that I could connect with, mostly with my guardian angels, but also spirit guides, mostly getting just yes and no answers, but they give me so much guidance in every aspect of my everyday life. I mean, I would encourage anybody to go out there and get a pendulum and learn how to use it. But the thing is with pendulums is you need to be open to it.
So how do you use it?
So when I use my pendulum, when I first got my pendulum, I had to program it, and I had to ask that only my spirit guides and my guardian angels come through the pendulum. And then each time I use the pendulum, every single time I use it, I ask that only those spirits, so my angels or spirit guides, come through the pendulum. And then for me, so I'll ask the pendulum, please show me a yes. Can you see that? Okay.
So you're waiting for it to swing?
Yes. And now please show me a no. Now, my sons have sat there and watched me do that, and with such skepticism, because they're like, Mom, you're doing that. You're doing that. But I said, no, feel free to hold my hand, hold my fingers, and you can study as closely as you like. And I am not, I swear to you, I am not moving the pendulum. And I'm not. The pendulum will, you know, the energy of the angels, of your guides, is what moves the pendulum. And but you need to find out when you get a pendulum how it's going to work for you. So for me, I always get a big circle for a yes, or a back and forth swing for a no. But if you go and get a pendulum, it might be different for you. So that's why when you get your pendulum, you first ask that only your angels or your guides or whoever, spirits aligned with your highest good, come through. And then you'll ask the pendulum, could you please show me a yes? And it might be different. You know, it may be a back and forth swing for a yes for you, or you know, an anti-clockwise swing for a yes and a clockwise swing for a no. It is different for everybody. And so if you get a pendulum, that's something that you work out.
Do you ask for specific advice and then it gives you the answer, yes or no answer, or like?
Yeah, I get guidance about absolutely everything, you know, everything. From spiritual guidance, but you know, even should I do this or should I do that? Or, you know, even when I'm writing an email, and you know, I tend to be quite a direct communicator, you know. And so sometimes I'll ask the angels and say, you know, does this email sound all right? And they'll kind of, we go through it sentence by sentence, and they'll give me a no for a particular sentence. And that tells me that I could word it a bit better, or I should say it a bit differently. And so, you know, I'll reword it, and then they'll go, yeah, that sounds good. If you're unsure about what step to, where to go next in your career, you know, how to handle a situation with a friend or a loved one, you know, you ask the right questions and you will get given guidance. So for me, I have pendulums all around the house, and I ask them for advice on everything. And I've learned so much from them. Look, I'm a big fan of them. I think you can just get so much wisdom and guidance in every aspect of your life. And, you know, if people, you know, listening to this podcast have any questions about anything I've said, then they can feel free to, you know, message me privately and ask more questions, because whether it's art or whether it's crystals, whether it's pendulums, I feel really blessed to have access to that divine guidance. Because I think as humans, we all struggle with so many things on a day-to-day. You know, what's the right thing to do here? What's my purpose? What am I, you know, where should I be going in my life? How do I handle this situation? We don't always have the answers. You can tap into that guidance, whether it's your spirit guides, angels, whatever you believe, you know, your spirit people to be. You know, you can get help with your day-to-day life.
Could you talk about your family? You have a large family, 4 or 5 kids?
4 boys. 4 boys. Yes.
Like,
yes.
How did they influence your creative pursuits? How did you manage all of that? I don't get it.
My oldest son, he'll be 30 in July. And we had our first 3 sons, you know, reasonably quickly. There's 2 years. So 29, 27, 25, they are. Matthew, Joshua, and Ben. Then we had a gap, and I loved being a mum. I mean, I still love being a mum, but I love being a mum of young kids, you know. And I felt that we felt that the boys were growing up so quickly, that we wanted to go back and have another one. So there's 8-year gap between Ben, our 3rd son, and then Sam, our 4th son. And a lot of people assumed that he was a bit of an accident because I was 38 when I had him, but he wasn't an accident. We just genuinely loved having the boys around, and loved raising kids. So in terms of art, probably only my 2nd son, Josh, has any real interest in art. The other boys really don't have any interest in art, but are very, very supportive of my art journey. The oldest 3 are all married, and Matt and Laura have 2 children. Ben and Shauna have a little 6-week-old baby. And Josh and Tash just got married last Friday. Sam is in year 12, so his final year of high school. They're all beautiful. To me, they're still boys. They're men, really, but they're boys. They're beautiful boys, and I love their partners. They're like daughters to me. And yeah, we're very, very blessed to have our family all around us, and we see them all the time. And except we're very blessed, and I'm very grateful.
What is meaningful life for you? I mean, if you could share what you find meaningful in life.
Definitely just helping others, you know, helping others that's it for me. I don't really, people would find that surprising. You know, I never set goals, never have. I'm just a strong believer that, you know, the universe has a better plan for me than I can plan for myself. So I just remain very open to, I can see your cat in the background too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Very open to, you know, whatever is thrown at me. But I think the only time I feel frustrated is when I feel like, you know, I'm not having the opportunity to help people. I mean, that might sound, you know, mushy or, oh, you know, goody two shoes, I suppose, but that's what makes me happy. That's what, whether it's family, whether it's, you know, fellow artists or, you know, through the Reiki, I genuinely just love helping people. And that's what gives my life meaning. It doesn't really go beyond that, you know. That's it. Yeah.
Well, Karen, it's been a very fascinating conversation. I'd like to thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Really fun and so informative, and just,
that's good.
Yeah. Thank you so very much.
Oh, I enjoyed it, and thank you for inviting me.
Sure. If people want to connect with you, how do they find you?
Well, they can either contact me from, you know, Karen Hull on Facebook website. So I have Karen Hull Art or Karen Hull Healing.
Have a good day, Karen.
Thank you. You take care.
Yeah,
bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for watching this video. I appreciate every single one of you. And if you enjoyed watching our conversation, please feel free to subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends. Take care. Bye-bye.